Okay, good morning, Commissioner. It's actually Sunday, December 6th, and we have strayed away from our most recent schedule of bi-weekly videos because there are some really important statements and updates that you wanted to provide all of the staff within the department, which has certainly created a sense of urgency.
Yeah, Ken, at the end of this video, as we always do, we'll share the specific numbers for DCF. But the important message for today's video is since the last time we talked, which hasn't even been a full 2 weeks, there have been 17 more staff positives. And so today's message is about, how will we as a community, as a department, take this seriously? Because I think, we've moved from this place of personal preference or what feels comfortable to me to recognizing that our choices are impacting our peers and the families that we serve. So, today's message is a little different than the ones that people have been hearing over the last few months because we're at a critical stage at this point.
Yeah. And we know that Connecticut has wavered the past couple of days between a 5.5% positivity rate and a 7%. And an interesting article in the New York Times that rated Connecticut actually one of the most restrictive states in the country for our COVID-19 protocols. But yet we as a department need to do so much better. And this week, we are really going to have staff hear from, their leadership at all levels to reinforce the points that we have been making for so many months about distancing and mask wearing and being vigilant.
The governor or the government or, the leadership of the department can't control what happens in people's households or in their personal lives. That is an individual responsibility that we have to take seriously. And, there is a expectation of, I was talking to some people about the fact that so many people have lost their jobs, yet we still have jobs. Yeah. We have jobs because the work we do is essential and it's critical. And so we have to make essentially critical decisions in our personal life because it's impacting the work. And that's in our facilities who are the most vulnerable right now. If you think about the kids that are housed there and the decisions that staff are making there, you think about our central office divisions and the work that they do to keep this machine moving, whether it's at our care line or, in payroll and fiscal and those things that are keeping the fiscal brains of the operation moving, our IT folks that are keeping us all connected. All of that work, we have to stop and think, one, is this function something that I must do in person and face to face? And two, am I protecting myself and my colleague or the person that I'm interfacing with, whether it's a patient at Solnet or, one of the kids placed there or my colleagues that are around me? Am I making the best choices to ensure that not only I'm safe, but that they're safe too? When you think about safety science, we've talked about that in the past in our culture of safety. Yep. In the healthcare field, there's an example that someone gives that says, a person on the maintenance staff seeing the head of cardiology, there's no level there. That person says to the head of cardiology, hey, you didn't sanitize your hands when you went into that room. And the only acceptable answer is, thank you, you're right, yep, and to right. Sanitize. So there's I didn't feel that I should be saying something to that person if I saw that their mask was down below their nose or, I kind of felt weird. Our supervisors have to have that responsibility of auditing people that have to do their work in person. But then we also have a responsibility to say to each other, I'm not going to engage with you in less than 6 feet if you're not properly covered and I'm not either.
Yeah. And those may lead to some uncomfortable conversations, but yet, as we also say, as part of our safe and sound culture, uncomfortable is different than safe. You are right. Safe to have those conversations and they need to be said. Now, that's right. There's a couple points, Commissioner, that you also wanted to clarify for staff. It's about contact tracing and then what happens when, based on the contact tracing exercises, it is believed that an individual has been exposed to somebody who is COVID positive, and then what happens there?
Yeah, so every single time that we've gotten notification of a staff member or a child in our care or a foster parent has tested positive, we step through a rigorous contact tracing protocol every single time. With that focus of making sure that our staff are okay and the families that we serve are okay. That contact tracing leads us to the people who have had that what's considered close contact by CDC standards. And we know that some of this has been fluid and changed in terms of distance and time frame, cumulative time versus a condensed period of time in a row. And so we've shifted as the information has unfolded over the months. Our medical director is on it. Every time there's a new change with the CDC, Dr. Taylor is stepping us through with precision. And so the notification of all of those had been going with a template that we sent out to that whole division, that whole floor, that whole building, regardless, where, depending on where that was. So then we started hearing from staff members in the springtime, there's a lot of positivity out there. This is too much communication. It's making me anxious. So we continued that rigorous process, but we didn't send out that message to all staff all the time. And so at each time, though, we notified the unions, we notified the person that, the direct contacts, but we didn't send those broad communications. So now we've been told that we must send those broad communications to everyone in that location. So you're going to see them more frequently. Yet I wanted to make sure people knew that behind the scenes, we were doing that contact tracing. And one other piece that I think we learned this weekend, because we've been thank goodness for the team that we have. If I can't say enough about the leaders in this agency, we've been at it all weekend, trying to mitigate some stuff that's happening on one of our facilities. And what we learned when we had to bring in some experts from DPH is that there comes a point when contact tracing moves into mitigation for an entire space, because you have to then expect almost that everybody has had some form of potential exposure, and then you have to lock in some additional strategies. So, before we get to that point, we need to recognize the vulnerability of our facilities and act accordingly. But then in all of the other contacts that we have that have to be in person, we have to maintain a level of vigilance that's more intense than we have.
Yeah. And to confirm, and again, re-emphasize one additional point. If we believe any member in our office has been exposed to somebody who is COVID positive, that person will absolutely, as immediately as we can identify them, be notified by human resources about that exposure. Some of the questions that come into the COVID-19 mailbox and are fielded by other members is, hey, you sent this notice about a staff member positive in my office. Am I in a tough position? Please be assured you will be notified immediately. So if you're not notified by the time that announcement comes out in your office, you can be pretty rest assured we did not contact trace this individual back to you.
Yeah. The only thing we don't share, though, is the confidentiality, the name of the person, which puts us in a bit of a, we want to protect everyone's confidentiality. But the funny thing with that is that many times the staff member who has tested positive has told other people, and then the rumors start, or the information starts going. So, just like the fluidity of that information shares is the same that I need to be able to say to you, Ken, put your mask on, pull it up over your nose, make sure that you're wearing the proper mask for the contact that we're having.
So speaking of that, the last piece in our memo today actually includes a link to a document you had already sent out last week, clarifying the types of masks up to and including a face shield and when they are to be worn, and also clarifies this term that we continue to say about close contact. So and so if you could talk a little bit about that before we get into the numbers again.
Yeah, so the PPE standards that we have put out are our minimal standards. And we're finding that people aren't even following the minimal standards in some situations. So just for as much as the message is about decisions that you're making in your personal life, the holidays are coming up. We just saw what's happening around Thanksgiving. We are not going to approve work-related holiday gatherings, because we're seeing that these gatherings are the things that are impacting people. But when we think about those times that the work that we do calls for in-person contact, the PPE that's being expected of you is the minimal standard. So that surgical mask. If you're going to wear, that surgical mask. If you're going to wear a cloth mask,
like
or, and those things that, have become either a fashion accessory or a way to advertise something, the surgical mask goes on first, the cloth mask on top of it. You can always do more, but that surgical mask is the bare minimum. We have face shields that can go over the surgical mask if there is a concern that somebody in your proximity is not maintaining the 6 feet, or is not doing what they either they can't tolerate it, or that there's a reason why they don't have it on. We have face shields, we have goggles, there's gowns. I mean, there's gloves. Those are other forms of PPE, but the bare minimum is that surgical mask must be worn at all times that you're having face-to-face contact with your colleagues or the people that we serve within a certain distance. The cloth masks over that. We have face shields available. We have the masks, we have the gloves available. We have gowns. We have all those things. We can use those within our stockpile to do our critical work of the agency. The same time that we're talking about this increased rate, we've got some really serious cases going on within the department that we're having to navigate with our provider world. And so this is not a time for us to, be dancing around on semantics. Can we say this word? Can we get this group upset? Everybody has to take responsibility, because we are essential staff doing essential work, and we have a responsibility to make essential decisions in our life that impact our own safety and the health and safety of the people we serve.
Great. So as typical in our videos, we now want to give staff an update on the actual statistics. So for those staff who do not wish to hear this part, go ahead and shut off the monitor.
That's right, Ken. And, as we said at the top of the video, we've had 17 more staff positives. And that number today is 132 staff members from the beginning of this have tested positive. And a lot of those situations, have that resulted in the staff positive were really quick interactions that they've had with someone. So this virus transmission is extremely contagious. We've had 121 kids in our care test positive, and then 185 foster parents.
Yeah. So since the last time we were together in the video, that's an increase of 11 foster parents, 9 youth, but as you already said, 17 staff, and that's why we're here. So today's message was really intended to be much firmer and actually pointed in the conversation. There are some messages we have to get out. We are really looking to our leaders across the state to reinforce the messages here, to communicate, and also again articulate the increased manner and messages that we are taking to prevent the spread. So we're here. The communication we know is coming from all angles, but it must be reinforced in our daily work.
That's right. The supervisors, managers, leaders, directors all have a part to play to ensure that this message is reinforced, but we each individually, every single member of our department has to take seriously our individual actions at home so that we can do the essential work that we do. Our population is vulnerable, but we will all get through this together.
Thank you, Commissioner. Have a great week.
We'll see you in a couple of hours, Ken.